Welcome everyone to another episode of Keto Chat. I am your host. I'm Carole Freeman, certified nutritionist and registered hypnotherapist. I'm here today and I'm really excited to bring you the story, the person, the very inspirational Brenda Richards. Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you.
Let me just give a little background or share some of your credentials and we're going to dive into your story. It's a really phenomenal story. So Brenda, she's a certified personal trainer. She is a sports nutrition specialist. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Mathematics and Computer Science, and she's a Master's of Education in Educational Administration. She's also, you may or may not know, she is a boot camp coach for Ketogains. And so welcome, Brenda. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much.
So just as a quick little intro, just share a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Okay, my full-time job, I work as an instructional coach, which means I teach teachers. And then I also work as a Ketogains coach in the boot camps at the novice, beginner, and intermediate levels. I'm a transplant from Iowa, living in Arizona and working in California every day, commuting just short distance away from Mexico every single day. And that's pretty much me in a little nutshell.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you get to enjoy pretty warm weather mostly year round then, huh?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And if you're familiar with what Rob Wolf says, like living at that latitude on the planet is very healthy for you. Getting frequent sun exposure.
Yeah. I'm in the sunniest city in the state or in the United States.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you get like 400 days of sunshine a year.
So go vitamin D.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Brenda, let's get into your story. So how did you, actually, I kind of want to go even back before your keto story, is that how did you get into the career that you're in?
Okay. As far as an instructional coach, I had been a teacher for 24 years, and actually me becoming an instructional coach is the result of feeling empowered in so many areas of my life as a result of taking control of my diet through keto.
Okay.
So I don't know that I would have done that if I hadn't changed the way I ate, because taking control of that one area somewhat empowered me to take control of so many other areas of my life, relationships, my job, just so many other things.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay, so it all fits together. So, all right, well, take us back then, back to when you were not so healthy, just before you started to make some changes. Or actually, let's go back even further. Like, let's talk about your journey of battling your weight. Like, how long was that going on? What's your story about?
My entire adult life, I've been a yo-yo dieter, just like so many other people, where you diet down, and then you gain back plus some. And I did that from the time I was in college, and found myself in a very dark spot in 2008, 2009. And a friend of mine convinced me to start looking into bariatric surgery. And so when I considered that, I started going to a support group locally for bariatric surgery, all different kinds, lap band, RNY, duodenal switch, everything out there. Vertical sleeve, and ended up I didn't even have a doctor at that point. And every time I went to the doctor, every time I went to the local clinic, they would say, you need to lose weight. And I knew that. And that's part of the reason I never had a regular doctor, because I didn't want him to tell me that every single time I went in. But when I decided to have or pursue bariatric surgery, I found a local doctor who was pro-bariatric surgery. And my highest known weight going in there was 407 pounds. Now, I say my highest known weight because for about the 6 weeks before I went in to see him, I kind of did low carb, just generally. And I know I dropped weight, so I would venture to say I was 425, 435, something like that at my highest weight. But that's not on record anywhere because I didn't have a home scale that would weigh me. Wow. So that was in 2009, and 6 months later, I had Roux-en-Y surgery at right around 400 pounds. And my surgeon at that time straight out told me that I would have a honeymoon period where I could lose weight. And for me, that existed for 14 months. The first 4 months were complete hell. I basically starved the first 4 months. 2 weeks after I had weight loss surgery, I had what they call a stricture, which means the bottom of my pouch closed to the point I could not drink water. I couldn't take vitamins. Even liquid vitamins would not go down, and then let alone food. And so they went back in and opened up my pouch so that food would pass. But for the first 4 months, virtually everything I ate came back up. And I lost weight for a total of 14 months and then plateaued at right around 260. And then gained back weight over 5 years to 290-ish, give or take. And then in January 2016, I went into the store and nearly passed out. And that resulted in tons of blood work. And with that blood work, I found out I was pre-diabetic. And my doctor told me, Brenda, you either need to do a paleo diet, an anti-inflammatory diet, or the Atkins diet. And so I went home and I hopped online and started searching for those. And this is the one time that Facebook ads were good, because some of the websites or some of the Facebook pages that were coming up involved the ketogenic diet. I hopped on a few of those and I started seeing some that scared me and then some that made sense. And luckily I found one that made sense and talked about fat as connected to your goal and the emphasis on protein and whatnot. And so in April 2016, I started the ketogenic diet at 291 pounds.
Okay. And the story that you shared about getting the surgery, losing a bunch of weight, but then starting to gain it back. I think people have this fantasy that they're going to do the surgery and then all of the troubles are in the past and it's just the beginning, right? And so many of the ladies that I've worked with have the same thing where they have a past history of some kind of weight loss surgery. And that's the thing they don't tell you, is that if you don't actually make some bigger changes, it's just going to come back.
Well, it's interesting because a dietitian in my surgeon's office basically described the ketogenic diet for me post weight loss surgery and said, hey, you want to eat lots of protein, not so many carbs, and eat so for fat. But they never gave me any numbers. And so I had no target.
Yeah.
And after several years, old habits started to come back into play and started taking me back up. Even at 291 pounds, it's interesting because my surgeon considers me a success story at 290 pounds, which I don't know.
Well, you know, what's really interesting is when I was in school, that what they taught us, we had one teacher that taught like the weight loss elective class. And she said that most weight loss surgeries, they only last 2 years, that by 2 years, most of the people have gained all the weight back that they've lost. And we were all like, what? Then why would people go through the risk of that and the expense? Like, why would doctors want to have that done? And she said that the 2 years improved health that they get from that was worth the risk. That's the way that the doctors and clinicians looked at that too. So I was like, wow. Like, and so at that time, I didn't think there was any way that anyone could ever lose weight and keep it off.
Right. I was at such a desperate place in my life that when I went to see that doctor about weight loss surgery, looking back now, I realized that basically I was committing suicide every single day by the food I was eating and choosing to eat, because I was at that unhappy of a place in my life. And so even knowing some of the side effects that I could incur, it was worth the risk for me at that point, because I was so incredibly desperate in such a dark place. Yeah.
Brenda, I know that is so true. I mean, with everybody that I've talked to, like, society often looks judgmentally on people, especially women that have had weight loss surgery. They're like, oh, you just took the easy way out. But I totally disagree, because I know that for somebody like you and everyone else has got to that point, they've tried everything and not everything else has failed them. And it's not because it's a lack of trying. It's that's how important it is and how miserable you're feeling that you're just willing to go to those lengths. So I just want to put that out there to the world and whoever's listening to this, that it's not a shortcut. It's a sign of how important this was and how hard you were working to solve this problem.
Yeah, even now, 9 years later, something like that, there are still side effects that I have to deal with. I meet my macros for Ketogains just like everybody else. And that means that sometimes food gets stuck and I'm miserable. And when I go in to see the doctor, I have to give 8 vials of blood because there are so many malabsorption issues with Roux-en-Y surgery. And I mean, all kinds of things. So there are still side effects and it's not easy even now.
Oh. Well, thank you for being willing to share so much with everyone. So how did you go from, okay, so talk about the keto approach you found first. How long did you, were you stick with that? Or did you kind of like a lot of people like try to figure out for a while and they can't quite figure out what's working. Did you find a way that worked for a while and then you got stuck again, or tell us about that part of the journey?
I started an approach to keto very much like Ketogains. In fact, Tyler and Luis were admins on the page where I started. They aren't anymore, but that's okay. But the science was the same. And the principles of focusing on protein in order to maintain lean body mass was the same. Using fat as an adjustable lever was the same. And so I was fortunate. I say it's by the grace of God I ended up there, because there are a lot of pages out there where I will encounter women coming from some of these pages eating 200 grams of fat and like 30 grams of protein, and it breaks my heart because I'm more in their lean body mass.
Mm-hmm.
But I say it's by the grace of God I ended up there. And when I looked at the success on that page versus some of the other pages, and then I also looked at what the suggestions were when people encountered a stall, it just made sense to me, because I knew I had fat, pardon me for a second, I knew I had fat on my ass to burn, so there was no need to put fat in my glass. Yeah. And that made sense. And so I stuck with that.
So you got very consistent results.
Right, in the beginning.
Yeah. Okay.
I started boot camp about 6 months into the diet.
Okay. So tell us, the people who don't know what the boot camp is. What is a Ketogains boot camp?
I describe it as a life-changing strength training and nutrition program. We seek to empower people to find the strength within themselves, to train, and to take control of their diet. And sometimes we have people that come in and they have started one aspect of it. Perhaps they've started the diet, or they're strength training, but they've never started the diet. Or every so often we'll have some people come in that are brand new to both, and that's okay. We welcome them and we take them where they are and help them find strength within themselves to explore and push harder than they have.
So when you started, did you have any training or experience in weight training?
Not at all. The only thing I had ever done with a weight is I had picked up those cutesy little 1 pound and 3 pound weights that women walk with at the park. And that's all I'd ever done. Okay. So my first day in the gym, I took the boot camp workout and opened it up on my phone, tried to play videos. They would not play. I sat there in the weight training area, overwhelmed, intimidated. I went home that first day. I sat on my floor and I had a good cry. And I was like, okay, Brenda, this is your shot. And you need to change things and do things differently. And you need to figure out a way to make this work. And so that night I went through and I emailed myself the links to every single video, went back to the gym the next day, and I could play the videos. And I just kept going back. And at first it was unnatural and uncomfortable. And then it became my home. And then it became my oasis and my therapy room and all that. So a lot changed, because when I started, coping would have been reaching for a pint of Ben and Jerry's. Now coping is saying, okay, I already went to the gym this morning, but I found out this really bad news, so I'm going to go back there tonight because there's a lot of healing that can happen at the barbell. So,
wow. You go back to yourself 10 years ago. What would that person hearing what you just said say to that?
She wouldn't know who I am.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much that has changed that even becoming a personal trainer when I started boot camp, that wasn't even on my radar. It wasn't something that I ever considered. I had to fill out a questionnaire for something recently, and the descriptor I used for myself was athlete. And I'm like, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
Who are you? You used to have issues walking up flights of stairs. Now you're calling yourself an athlete? So.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So what were your motivators in the beginning when you started keto? I mean, what was on your list of things like why this was important to keep going?
When I started the diet, my greatest goal was, well, you know the phrase YOLO?
Mm-hmm.
And so many people use that for unhealthy choices. And my thought was, you know, I've only got one shot at this, and I want to do more than exist with my life. I want to be able to live, and I do not want to be immobile at 60. I don't want to be popping pills to survive. I want to have the ability to experience life and be free to do anything I want to do. I lived so much of my life restricted by my weight that I wanted to be able to do anything. And so when I started, I actually reached out to my best friend who had been with me all along the way during my journey, and asked him if I hit my goal weight, which my goal weight was a number that my surgeon told me I would never reach. And so that was my goal weight to kind of prove her wrong. And I reached out to him and I said, if I hit this goal weight, will you go skydiving with me? Because I thought of the most weight restricted activity I could come up with, and jumping out of a plane attached to somebody else was right up there. So that's what I did 2 months after I hit my goal weight.
Oh, wow. And how long ago was that?
I hit my goal in July 2017. So that was September 2017.
Wow. That's awesome. And that's probably also something you have 10 years to be like, no way.
Yeah, there's no way I would have, because at 407 pounds, that's certain death when you jump out of a plane. So.
And so that was what was inspiring you in the beginning. What along the way kept you motivated when things got really hard?
Several things. One is just the fact that I felt better. One of my boot campers just mentioned something recently, and it was something I used to say to myself along the way. You didn't come this far just to come this far. And so that just came to light again just recently. And it's just a reminder that it's like a lifelong journey, basically. I wanted better health, and I don't want to go back to the misery I experienced at 407 pounds. I mean, not being able to walk up a flight of stairs, not being able to fly, not being able to always go into a restaurant and being guaranteed you'll fit in a restaurant booth, walking by children and having them snicker and laugh and point. I mean, that's a miserable way to live. And so, I mean, I constantly hold on to those reminders, not because I want to live in the past, but it's a good reminder of where I came from.
Yeah. Staying away from what the pain was in the past can be really propellant to keep us going on this path. Yeah. You mentioned walking by kids and them making fun of you. Would you mind being so vulnerable as kind of sharing any, you know, a story that pops into your mind about something that was maybe one of the most, I don't know, I feel bad asking for you to share something really painful, but is there something in your past where it stands out where it's like, that was something I never ever want to experience again? Or
I think the first time I had to ask for an airplane extender was one of the most mortifying moments of my life. it caused me to research and find online that I could buy an airplane extender so I would never have to ask for one again.
Okay.
So I actually have one still in my house, because that was so, God, I felt so bad for the people that were sitting in my row, honestly. And at that point, I bought the airplane extender, but it wasn't that much after that I decided I wasn't going to fly again. And so I would drive 2,000 miles to see my parents because it was less painful than trying to get on an airplane.
Wow. So let's contrast that with one of your proudest moments or interactions or experiences that you've had now.
I think one of the most surreal moments for me is meeting people from Ketogains that I don't know at, say, Low Carb USA, or we did a coaches meetup in Tampa, and having people look at me like a celebrity. It's surreal because I look at me and I'm like, Brenda, you're just doing the diet and you lift weights and that's pretty much it. And that's kind of surreal for me. And then to hear stories of people who tell me about the difference I've made in their lives, and these are strangers, and what an incredible blessing it is to be able to share my story in such a way that it inspires people to believe that they can do it. I think those are some of the biggest things for me, that I never set out for that. I never set out to do anything. I just wanted to be able to walk up a flight of stairs.
Yeah.
Simple things.
Who were some of your biggest inspirations?
Now this is not a weight loss inspiration, but it's my dad. I lost my dad 2 days before my first intermediate boot camp, and about 2 weeks before that, when one of the last times he was ever truly present, he told me he was proud of me. And when I was a little kid, one of the things that he would tell me and tell my sister is, you can't say can't. Basically, it wasn't allowed in our house. He said, if you say can't, you've already determined the outcome. And I lost that somewhere along the way. I held fast to that mentality all through high school. And somewhere along the way, I would kind of demand that of my students, demand that of others, try to inspire people for others. But for me, I became held hostage to myself and held hostage to my body. And I couldn't be successful with that. So I think in terms of inspiration now, I look at what my dad tried to instill in me as a child and brought back out in me as an adult. And I know that I can do anything I set my mind to. It might take a while. It might be the result of tiny little changes over time. But if I have a goal, I can make that happen. And so I would say he's my greatest inspiration. Now my mom, because I'm having her do a version of this diet as well. She's not straight out keto, but she's low carb. And she's rocking it. She's lost 75 pounds since May, I think.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, that's going to be my next question then, is that what has been the experience of your closest friends and family? Like, what ripples of health impact have you had on others?
I probably have about 3 dozen real life friends and family doing this. My cousin just recently finished a boot camp with us. Another cousin did a boot camp with us this summer. I've had a friend do a boot camp, but beyond that, I've got, like I said, probably about 3 dozen real life friends and family doing the diet or a version of the diet as a result.
Wow. And then you said too, just countless people you run into random places that are.
Yeah, and I've met up with some people locally, just like at Starbucks, and kind of help them get started on it, figure out what their macros are, figure out typical foods to eat. And that's just huge. I mean, having somebody be able to point you in the direction that if you hop on Ketogains or you hop on some of the other sensible keto pages, you'll see tons of success, Transformation Tuesdays, Facelift Fridays, Flex Fridays. And those stories, they're unreal. They're fantastic. Every one of those photos comes with a story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell us, keep us, or take us along the journey then as you started getting into the Ketogains boot camps, transforming yourself even more there. And you'd mentioned early on that also then started to have influence on your career. So how did that all come about?
As I became aware of strength within me that I did not know exist, I think Tyler and Louise kind of provided a blueprint for me. And this is what I tell my campers. We provide the roadmap, but the campers still have to do the work. And they provided the blueprint for me. And so I was able to discover strength that empowered me in a whole bunch of other areas. I broke off some toxic relationships. I had some fat friends, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but we were fat buddies. We would eat together and we would buy ice cream together. And anytime we gathered, it was centered around food, and often to the point of excess. And when I started losing weight, they were often, I don't know if it was threatened or jealous, but not supportive, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. And so I cut off some of those relationships. I've had some friends and family that would kind of mock me. Here, would you like some of this? Oh, that's right, you can't have that. And so then it became like a standing joke in their mind. And that's hurtful because you want the people closest to you to be supportive of you. And when you become the punchline, that's not going to help you get to your goals. So I put some relationships on hold to the point that, well, until they could finally start supporting me again. Not that it's anybody's job to do my work, but I want encouragement in me doing it, not people actively trying to sabotage you either. And then, so once I started discovering that strength, I was able to, put in an application for a job that I would have never done before, push myself out of my comfort zone that way. Started doing certifications. When I don't know how long it was into the boot camp process, but I kind of went on as an intern first, and Tyler and Louise encouraged me to get certified and started coaching with them. And it's been great.
Complete transformation inside out. So, yeah. We didn't talk to you then about like kind of health changes, because you said the doctor gave you the news that you're pre-diabetic. What's on your list of actually, health type things that have improved as well?
I had high blood pressure until I had weight loss surgery. Okay. 2 weeks after weight loss surgery, I was taken off all high blood pressure meds. That happens a lot with any weight loss. But those of you watching this, don't change your medication without talking to your doctors. So I was taken off all high blood pressure medicine right then. When I started the keto diet, I was pre-diabetic exactly 6 months and 1 day after starting the diet, because I'd heard the stories of waiting 6 months. So exactly 6 months and 1 day after starting the diet, I had an A1C test that put me dead center of normal, and had no other issues. I was anemic, and that was a result of weight loss surgery. They told me I would have to take iron for the rest of my life. But a year, I think it was, into doing the diet, my iron came back high actually, and my doctor took me off all of iron medication. Now I'm back on it, but it's going to be kind of a ongoing thing. I think that's why I get 8 vials of blood every 6 months. So it's just something that I monitor a lot because of the weight loss surgery and the malabsorption. Yeah. But other than that, clean bill of health.
Nice. Excellent. Congratulations. Good work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What's on your future plans? Like, what do you see for yourself? Because it kind of sounds like the doors have opened to a lot of possibilities in your life that you never even dreamed of before. Like, what do you see for yourself in the future?
In terms of lifting, I just want to keep pushing myself. I have no desire to compete or anything like that. My ongoing mantra is stronger every day. Now, when I say stronger every day, that's not necessarily building muscle, but that's building myself within, and trying to just push myself outside of my comfort zone in baby steps.
Yeah.
Constantly, because those baby steps are what add up to great change. And I think that's a huge thing. People want to change, but they want to change overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that that's sustainable.
Yeah.
The little daily habits are what makes sustainable change and what makes great change. And so I'm just going to push myself further in terms of lifting. I'm not sure. My dad always said that education is one of the few things in life that can't be taken from you. And so I keep looking for different things and may pursue additional education there.
All right. Oh, and you reminded me of a myth we need to talk about to dispel is, well, a couple things. Weightlifting for women, are we going to turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger? Like, what do you say when people ask about, like, well, I don't want to get all bulky?
I say, well, I just told a camper this earlier this week. Strong is sexy, first of all. We don't have the same makeup as a man. So unless you're doing and adding extra to the workout with bonus enhancers and whatnot, you're not going to be looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You're talking about illegal injections, right? Yeah.
Right.
Not just lifting more weights.
No.
Yeah.
And in terms of bulking up, yeah, it's just not going to happen for women unless you add outside influences, add drugs and whatnot.
What about the myth of when women say, well, I don't want to build muscle, I just want to get toned?
Toned is reducing the body fat so that you expose the muscles. Okay. And so you want to build muscle and reduce body fat at the same time to tone, which it doesn't exist, but that's what's happening there. You're reducing body fat, increasing muscle. Body recomposition at its finest.
Yeah, yeah. So what are some other myths that you find yourself dispelling on a daily basis about either keto and or weight training, especially for women?
I kind of referenced one earlier with the if I've got fat on my ass to burn, I don't want to put fat in my glass. And it saddens me when I go out into the keto world and people are stuck and the comeback is, oh, well, you need to eat more fat. You need to eat more fat. And we're talking about a 275-pound woman. How does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You've got your fuel on your thighs, your hips, your gut. You don't need to be eating sticks of butter. One of the things that kills me is people saying, okay, I'm going to go on this kind of fast or that kind of fast or this kind of fast, gimmicky things. First of all, a fast is not eating gobs of butter or butter in hamburger or whatever. Fast would imply that you don't eat. So where people redefine these words, it makes me crazy. That's one of them. Other myths, the starvation idea that you're not eating enough calories, that's why you're not losing weight and whatnot. That gets to me. There's some great dispelling articles out there. I would encourage you to look up some of them. Not you, but the viewer. Because there are tons of things out there that talk about that. The 1,200 calorie myth for women. Mm-hmm. Every woman should eat 1,200 calories. And if you're not healthy. I think that's insane. You eat what you need to create the deficit you need in order to make your body do what you need it to do. If you're trying to lose weight, there's no reason that you need to be eating 2,000 calories like the standard American diet says. You need to create the deficit, and the Ketogains calculator is a great tool out there for people. I know there's other good ones as well, but being a Ketogains coach, I'm going to go, yay, Ketogains. And find what you need to make it work for you. Create the deficit you need.
What about the idea that women need more carbs than men?
My body doesn't need carbs. I think, let me jump into one associated with that. Just listen to your body. I listen to my body to 407 pounds. I don't need to listen to my body. My body still says, Brenda, you need a tub of popcorn. My body is a lying bitch. You do not need to listen to your body in the broad sense. Now, if you're in pain and injured and whatnot, yes, listen to your body and go see your doctor. But in terms of what to eat, I don't buy into that.
And how about, here's another one you're gonna love too, is that, well, it's probably not working because I'm eating too much protein.
It saddens me so much. Like I mentioned earlier, we have women that we'll encounter that are eating 180, 200 grams of fat and 30 grams of protein. And it breaks my heart, because when it's not rocket science. Your muscles are made of protein. Your body can't create protein. You have to provide the building block to sustain or build muscle. If it's not there, it's not going to happen. And so when you cut back on that protein and your muscles can't maintain themselves, there's muscles lost, obviously.
Well, why do we need muscles, though? I'm just going to play the full...
I don't want to be, TIFO, thin inside, fat outside. No, TOFI.
Yeah.
Whatever. Fat inside, thin outside. There we go. Something like that.
Or a pile of bones that can't move itself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think of the blob. I don't want to be that.
Yeah. So what are your top tips of somebody who, it's pretty common that people go in fits and starts, right? They'll try it, they fall off for any number of 1,000 reasons. What are your tips for somebody that keeps struggling with, they can't stick with it?
My thing is that I tell people all the time, control the 24 hours in front of you, just that. It is overwhelming to start the diet and have gobs of weight to lose, and to be looking at that big picture. When I started the ketogenic diet, I was 291 pounds. And to look at the big picture, that's too much. It's too overwhelming. It's too great of a distance. When I realized all I needed to do was control the 24 hours in front of me, and that would result in change over time, that was liberating and set me free to limit the aspect that I looked at. And sometimes it was white knuckling it, controlling the next meal or controlling the next bite. If I have encountered people who have jumped off the wagon rather than fallen off the wagon, I encourage them to start with the next bite, the next meal, and pick themselves up. I want to talk about that fall off the wagon, jump off the wagon. Fall off the wagon makes you a victim of the diet. Jumping off the wagon reminds you that you are in control of your choices. And once you own those choices, that empowers you to take control. If you fall off the diet and use that verbiage with yourself, you are giving control to other people, and you are in control of your own destiny, your own choices, and your own outcome as a result. So that's a phrase that I really kind of jump on and preach on, as you can hear.
Yeah.
And then I constantly encourage campers and others in the keto world to make choices today that are in line with the goals that they have for tomorrow, and to constantly be intentional in those choices that they make. As I've said multiple times in the interview already, great change as a result of daily, often monotonous little choices, but they add up over time.
Speaking of monotonous, a lot of times people will get to a point where they say like, well, I'm just bored with the food. Like, and then what if people ask that of you? Like, don't you get bored of that? What do you say to that?
Well, let's see. For the last 800 and some days, 95% of my lunches have been the same because they're in line with my goals. My work lunches, let me specify that. But I will also say that nobody has to have plates of sadness. I look at some of these people who complain about, oh my gosh, it's so boring, it's so boring. And then I look at what's on their plate and it's boiled chicken.
Yeah.
And it's like dry broccoli.
Plates of sadness. That's hilarious. I love that.
I'm like, there's no reason for that. I'm a big proponent of Frank's. Let me do a little commercial for Frank's hot sauce. I swear I have that stuff going through my veins. So Frank's, I do a lot of guacamole salsa, fresh salsas. As a weight loss surgery person, I have to have sauce with almost everything I eat or it gets stuck. So I could be, like you go into those hot sauce stores, that's my refrigerator. I've got 6 or 7 different hot sauces. Spices, I am a spice junkie. I buy all kinds of stuff from Ross and Marshall's and stuff that isn't in the regular grocery store. Your food doesn't have to taste bad. You are not a martyr, That's what I tell people.
And I always tell them, I do the mental experiment with them. Is like, okay, so your brain is telling you you're bored with the food. What is it that your brain says will make it exciting? And it'll be like, they go, oh, carbs, right? So I think of it as it's often not that they're bored of the food. It's just that they're not getting that same dopamine kick from the sugar rush that they were used to before. So hello to your new normal of food fueling your body.
Let me introduce you to jalapeno bacon.
Okay. That's exciting. Woo. Yeah. Well, Brenda, was there anything else that you were, hoping to share or hoping I would ask about?
I would just say to anybody watching this, if you haven't started the diet yet, make today your day number 1. My only regret in starting the diet is that I lurked for 2 months before I did, and I would be 2 months further along had I started when I first came on. You have the ability to do this, that you can do hard things. You are stronger than you know. If you look at your life, no matter what has been in the background, you are an overcomer. You've survived 100% of the days, and you can survive this. You can survive cutting cake and cookies and chips out of your diet. That being healthy as a result of the food you choose is so much better than gorging yourself and being miserable. And I would encourage you to take the risk to begin. I think that's one of the hardest things. And remind yourself of why you're doing it, what you are trying to accomplish and achieve, whether it is weight loss or increased health or energy or mental clarity, all these different things that often are associated with the ketogenic diet. Remind yourself of why you began. Put it in a place that's prominent. Revisit it. Have a plan in place so that when you find yourself in uncomfortable situations, you know what you're going to do before it happens.
Wonderful. Lovely. You have imparted so much wisdom and such great information and tips and knowledge with us. I just really, really appreciate you sharing all of this and your journey with us and being such an inspiration for everyone. I just have one final closing question for you. It's the meteor's coming at us today. We're all going to be wiped out. Planet's going to be over with. What are you going to pick as your final meal?
filet mignon wrapped in bacon.
Nice. With no added butter? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no, I'll be having butter. Not boot camp compliant, but boot camp won't exist tomorrow, so I will have butter on top.
That sounds delicious. I'm going to be joining you, so.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, Brenda, thank you again so much for being here. We're going to link down below to how you get in touch with her if you'd like to work with her in a boot camp or otherwise. We'll put your links down there below. Anything you like, can people follow you on social media? Do you have anything?
I'm on Instagram at Empowered by Keto. That's my Instagram handle. And then I'm on Ketogains and I'm on Ketogenic Dieters as well. Those are two big keto pages. Excellent. But I am a Ketogains coach through and through. We are doing sign-ups starting November 16th for our upcoming boot camp. It's a holiday boot camp, which is a fun one because everybody's put together. It's a big boot camp, 4 weeks long, trying to keep people on track during the holidays.
That's for 2018 for those of you that are watching this in the future. So check it out. Yeah, we'll have all the links below. And if you guys enjoyed this interview, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and then also hit that little bell next to the subscribe, which will actually give you the notifications of new videos coming out. We've got great new interviews coming up. Brenda, thank you again for being here. I really appreciate you sharing your story.
Thanks so much, Carole.
Hey, everyone. Bye for now. We'll see you next time.